Captain America Civil War divided our heroes on a divisive topic of responsibility and oversight. But nothing was more surprising than who was heading up the opposition. I may be overthinking it, but was Captain America fighting against the very morals he used to defend? HYDRA was a hidden organization inside of a very public fascist regime, and it operated in secret without proper oversight and robust regulation. This created a situation that permitted Schmidt to hijack the group, and he redirected it into his personal quest for absolute control and power. HYDRA should have died at the end of World War II, but it survived as a parasite, and S.H.I.E.L.D. made a perfect host because it was created by the exact same faulty logic as its fascist counterpart. S.H.I.E.L.D. was a hidden organization inside of a very public world government, and it operated in secret without proper oversight and robust regulation. Despite the mission statement of protection and the righteousness of its directors, it proved to be a perfect incubator for the HYDRA mission of absolute control and power. Both organizations tried to force their own version of justice and morality on the human population, both in the name of bringing peace and prosperity and safety to everyone who survived their ultimatums. Steve joined the army to fight against fascist dictators from conquering the planet, and he signed up for S.H.I.E.L.D. to fight against fascist aliens from conquering Earth, because he really does not like bullies, and also mass murder and genocide. He brought down S.H.I.E.L.D. when he recognized what it had become, despite Nick Fury's touching story about his grandfather and a gun. In his own words, they were about to hold a gun to everyone on Earth. He devoted himself to being a mighty arm of justice to protect the innocent, yet tore down the organization that enabled him to be exactly that when he saw that their mission had been perverted. Steve Rogers was the moral weather vane for battling fascist control in every form, even when it turned out to be his own people. But when he took command of the Avengers as an independent organization inside of a very public world government, and he tasted the forbidden fruit of operating without proper oversight and robust regulation, he started down a slippery slope that created the events of Captain America Civil War. By the start of the movie, we already meet a Captain America who acts rather indifferent to the death of innocent lives, because they did, in fact, save billions more innocent lives by preventing a global catastrophe. But it's that dogged indifference that struck me as odd, because it vanishes after the news of Peggy, meaning that Steve is not becoming sociopathic because of the fight, just increasingly indifferent to their collateral damage. His overall rhetoric has shifted to the preservation of his personal allies as a priority, and defending greater and greater losses as a necessary cost for their mission. This is made worse when Bucky became the final remnant of his old life, because it shifted his priority as an Avenger to that of protecting an international fugitive during a global manhunt. The Sokovia Accords made half the team recognize the iffy direction Cap was leading them in, while the other half merely followed orders about whatever the current Avengers mission was. Captain America was now diametrically opposed to the will of the global population which he claimed to represent, forcing his personal will upon them. Steve Rogers became the biggest bully, and his rigid opposition to basic oversight positioned him to subvert the Avengers' mission into his own version of HYDRA. I did not question during the movie that Tony would be defending the Sokovia Accords, because I've been along during his evolution, from egotistical one-man army who antagonized the US government by refusing the barest amount of cooperation, to the man we see in Civil War, who has become a measured team player. So even though Tony's earlier personality would have pissed on the Sokovia Accords, quite literally, it made sense that his journey brought him to accept the constraints demanded by the global population. His goal is to not need the Avengers ever again, which is closer to happening when the world begins to unite on their own, when Earth begins to defend itself. And yes, he does unite with Cap in the end to defend someone who was framed for bombing the UN, but he did so while secretly flouting the Sokovia Accords, meaning that he still believed them to be a necessity, but he also needed to square away his own morality about letting an innocent person die as a casualty of Avenger action. Tony Stark adhered closer to the morals of a young Steve Rogers, because he has already been the man who treats war and fighting as his ultimate purpose. It's arguable that it was Pepper who kept Tony from devolving into fascist peacekeeping, and the absence of Peggy that doomed Steve into creating the next HYDRA, now that Captain America has tasted action without oversight. Of course, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe Captain America is a guiding star overtop a sea of ignorant human beings. And maybe this is a scenario that's been done to death in the comics, and I'm woefully ignorant. But I kinda like my theory better, so I'm rolling with it. Until next time, keep reading between them lines. If you enjoyed this theory, you should totally check out my Memento video, where I describe how and why Natalie hijacked Leonard to conduct a killing spree of her own, and tie up one final loose end. Check it out. And please, take care of yourselves out there, and I'll talk at you next time.